Welcome back, crew, or this month, maybe I should say welcome back, kinfolk, because we are diving into September's game of the month, the horrific Old Gods of Appalachia tabletop RPG. Today, we're going to be getting my favorite part of learning any new system. We're going to be going through and building a PC, showing you step by step how to get your character into the worlds of Old God of Appalachia and have some fun adventures. So stay tuned. But before we do that, I want to give two shout outs. The first being this is our first game of the month that has been chosen by our Patreon crew. Shout outs to our supporters there. This is one I'm excited for because I'm a huge fan of the podcast. So I'm looking forward to seeing this brought to the tabletop space. So thank you guys for choosing a fun one for our first one. And definitely check out our Patreon below if you're interested in helping us pick new games of the month going forward. Also, want to give a special shout out too because we're going to be running a live actual play of the Old Gods of Appalachia system September 28th, next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to be putting the system through its paces, showing off how the mechanics work, and hopefully having a fun narrative for you all to tune into. As always, we'll be giving away a free copy of the Old Gods of Appalachia core rulebook. Except this time it'll be a little bit different. Major shout out to Shanna Germain and the Old Gods team, because this time we'll be able to give away a free hardcover copy along with the PDF to one lucky viewer. You have to be in the US, but this time you get to bring home some of the crazy good artwork and have this on your shelf as well. So make sure you tune in and get to see this system live in action and for your chance to win. Yeah, let's dive into it. So we're going to go through and build a PC. Highly recommend this if you're learning a new system, whether you're the player or the game master. I feel like you learn so much from just getting a chance to kind of peruse the system, kind of go through that character building process. My biggest thing we always want to do first is come up with our concept. So today we're going to be building a railway worker. One of the cool things with Old Gods to me was some of the mythology around the railroads and kind of the creatures and gods that spawned. So I wanted to have my character kind of be tied to that a little bit. But he's going to be a pretty empathetic railway worker, very strong, definitely the type stand in for his friends and protect those he cares about. Definitely kind of he's been working on the railway all day long, so he's definitely a bigger, stronger type guy. We're gonna see kind of what we can do to bring him into the system. So let's dive into it. So the first thing with this, if you have the core rulebook or the PDF, character building starts on part two. Welcome to the family. Get to check out some of the crazy art there. I really love some of the art they've got in there with the system. But yeah, so we're gonna first go over the stats. So this system has three core stats. You've got might, which is kind of your more just brawn, your raw strength, kind of things you use to move boulders, fight diseases, anything kind of physical on that side. You've got your speed, how quick you are, how good you are with ranged weapons, how fast you can move, all of that. Intellect, for those coming from D&D or Pathfinder, it's kind of all your mental scores put into one. It's your intelligence, charisma, wisdom. It's how you utilize the magics of the world, how well you resist those said magics, your charm, how quick you are to pick up details, all of that wrapped into one. One thing I do want to give a heads up on, this one confused me a little bit as I was going through. I was kind of reading this section looking for where we get our, where, how we determine our own stats. Those are actually going to be found in your type, character type, which is kind of like your character class. And we'll go over that when we get to it. Same thing with skills. You usually get a skill from your character type, but also one from your focus as well. So we'll make sure we call those out as we go through them. But before we dive into that, I want to explain two or three core things about the system. One of the biggest being the pool. So pools are going to be pretty straightforward for you. So it's going to be your core attributes, so might, intelligence, or as well as speed. And once you go through and find your class and do all the things of character building, whatever that score at the end of it is your pool. With this system, you can reduce your pool by spending certain attributes, as well as certain attacks and scenarios. You may take damage to your pool as well. So you'd minus it from that. You still have whatever that max is, but your current in the pool could be lower than that. So that's pretty straightforward if you play some other systems like that. And kind of a way you could take damage. If somebody like just straight up punched you, that'd be a reduction to your might score. If somebody put some of the voodoo on your mind, that would be a reduction to your intellect score. They mentioned like poison or something like that, slowing down your speed. Or I could even say as a game master, somebody like trying to break your leg or do something that slows you down intentionally, that may be a reduction to your speed there too. But otherwise, the biggest way you're going to reduce that is by spending points. And one of the things they have to help with that are your edges. So you can have edges in any of the three core attributes. And what that does is, depending on the number of your edges, it reduces the cost for when you spend points by that number. You can only do that once per turn, though. So let's say you're using one of your abilities, and it says it costs might one. If you have edge one, you reduce that by one and bring it down to zero. One thing to note is you can't go negative, but the fun thing is you can at least go to zero. So certain abilities you have, if you've got edges that line up with it, you can make sure you're keeping your pool intact and doing cool things, don't having to worry about kind of knocking yourself out, which I think is a fun way to do it. Along with that, too, though, is you've got effort. So you could also spend your points to ease kind of certain difficulties of tasks that may come up. Let's say you're trying to swim through a raging river, and it's already a difficulty 3 rating, so that'd be like a 9. You'd have to roll above on your d20. You can say, nope, I want to spend some points, and I want to bring that down by 1 tier, which would put you down. What would that be? It's always 3 times your target number, so that puts you down to 6. So that's kind of a cool way to do it. You have to spend 3 points to ease the difficulty by one, and each character will have an effort score. So our guy that we're going to be building, he starts off with an effort score of one. You'll see that when we get to our protector class role, but that brings it down there. And you can also, if you have more than effort one, you can kind of continually bring it down further by spending more points. They cost points after that first one for each consecutive tier you go. One thing to note is you can only apply your edge once to this. You can also use it to spend or inflict damage. You could use 3 points of effort to inflict 3 points for single attack damage, and 2 points to everybody that may be hit by AoE type damage. It's pretty sweet there. But from there, we are going to dive into the different archetypes you can go through, or different shapes, I should say, you can build with this system. With our guy, we're gonna be running through the protector. I think that fits him the best. Look at the crazy kind of minor artwork. That's what I think they did some great jobs. Both minors, both in the series, the podcast, as well as the artwork of this book too. They had a really cool thing at Gen Con as well. But protector fits him. And one of the big things you have to do as you go through and pick your protector is you go through and kind of figure out what your identity is, kind of what your role is in the party, and kind of how you fit into the group as a whole. With this thing, before we dive into how we're going to build our protector, is you have 4 different types you can pick from. That's what they call their character classes. You have the protector, which we're going to be, which is more your tank, your brawny guy, the one that usually does the most damage and takes the most damage. Speaker, base of the group, definitely going to be the charming guy, not as much kind of defense behind you or attack behind you. You can get the explorer, kind of a mixture of might and intellect. You're going to be the trailblazer, finding different paths forward. And the sage, you can be kind of the granny of the group, mix some of your magic and cool things like that. On that, so it's definitely gonna be the more intellect-based magic user class. But for our guy, I wanted to build a rough and tumble tank, so we're gonna be building the protector. So we're gonna go through, kind of show you each piece, so you have to go through to build your guy. First piece is you're going to pick out your identity suggestion. So we already did that. I wanted our guy to be a railroad worker. So that's going to be our identity. So we got to throw that in there as well. From that, we're going to go through and kind of pick some of our starting stuff. So you see, it kind of goes through your individual role, your societal role, and all that. We're going to skip through that. You also get to pick your background, so you can roll a d20 and kind of see what you come up with. Um, I rolled a d20. I got a 2, which kind of fit well with what I was looking for. You've worked in the Barrow family for years. How and why you're able to leave is a story of your own, uh, and if you're willing to tell it. So, cool one there kind of gives our guy a little bit of a tragic story of how he escaped from the Barrows, which, if you haven't seen the podcast, those are some nasty guys. And with that, you get to go through and pick some of your stats. But before we do that, we're going to go over player intrusions. Player intrusions, we're going to touch on this more for the mechanics video, but each of the different classes get their own that they can spend XP on to utilize. So we'll pick on one of them. Unexpected arrival for the protector. You could have somebody that you've known from your past that's willing to help you out with whatever scenario you're in. Come through and kind of do something to help ease the situation and help push you along. They can't kind of come through and hang out though. They have to be willing to leave pretty quickly after. You could spend an XP point to do so. One thing I want to note though is it's spending XP and not attributes. A little bit different from some other systems. So XP is also the way you buy different abilities and things for your character. So if you are spending that, you are going to delay your progression, but you can do some cool things that can tweak the narrative, give you a little bit more control of what's going on in the fiction. But with this, you see that we get our starting stat pools for our guy. So as I said, I want him to be strong. He's gonna be the protector. He's definitely gonna be the one taking some of the beatings for the party. So we see we start with a 10 in might, 10 in speed, and 8 in intellect. We're gonna leave that 8 in intellect alone. That fits our guy enough. And we get 6 additional points that we can spend however we wish. So we're gonna give 4 to might, put us up to a 14. 2 for speed. He's kind of a quick guy. So we're gonna give us 12 there. So he's gonna be strong. He's gonna be kind of fast. And he's gonna be able to definitely hit pretty hard there. So as I mentioned, our effort score. So we can only spend effort up to 1 time at our current rank. You'll see we get physical nature as well, which goes over which edge we can start with. We can either do might or speed. I'm picking might, but we're going to go back a little bit later and show you how we get speed for this guy too. And then we also get to pick an area of knowledge that kind of fits his background. I picked railroading because he's a railroad guy. And we'll go over our mechanics video how these skill and kind of knowledge areas work. But just note that we will be trained in the railroad knowledge. And then with our protector, we get basically all weapons without any penalty there. We don't have any knowledge of magic. For our gear, we get 2 weapons. If you pick a ranged weapon, you get 12 ammo for the weapon. You also get to pick uh, 1 expensive item, 2 moderate items, 4 inexpensives, as well as 2 ciphers. The 2 ciphers are chosen by the GM. We're not going to go into the ciphers today. We're going to do a special video that kind of goes into what ciphers are and how to work them into the game, since they're very unique to the cipher system, and then as it applies to Old Gods of Appalachia too. But for our guy, we're keeping it simple. We're giving him a sledgehammer for his one of his weapons, a medium or a light pistol for the other. And with the weapons too, they are broken into kind of 3 categories. You got light, medium, and heavy. So our pistol it's called a light handgun, but it falls into a medium pistol range. Sledgehammer's heavy on that side. We're using our expensive resource to get a reinforced jacket, as well as our practiced and armor attribute, which we're going to pick in there too, which lets us get that too. We're gonna get some boots, which are moderate expense. Lantern, they fit. So you have a lantern, kind of doing all the railway work. Some rope, glove, a compass, light, some lanterns as well too for his inexpensive items. Pretty much just keeping it easy on that side. We start off with $2 too, but I didn't really spend any of that for our PC. But now that we've got that, one of the next big things we get to do is pick our 4 abilities. So you'll see as we get to the abilities, rank or tier 1, and there's 6 tiers you have for each of the types. You get to go through and pick 4 attributes that you want to have for your guy. So for him, I picked the practice and armor, which also allows us to start with the type of armor that we choose. So I picked heavy armor with the kind of the overcoat on that side. Also, with that, I wanted him to be quick too, so I wanted to give him the improved edge, which allows you to choose one of your edges that is 0. You can't pick, so we couldn't pick might for this, which allows us to give us speed 1 for our edge. Also, wanted to pick physical skills to give kind of climbing and running trained proficiency because I wanted to be quick and strong and able to kind of run through anything that he needs to. Uh, and then finally, I wanted him to be a pretty beast in attack mode. So this is we're picking lit, which allows us to spend 1 might point. If you remembered, we took the might edge, so we have 0 might points. We can do this, but basically allows us to do a pummeling attack that inflicts 1 less point of damage, but dazes the target for 1 round, which makes all of its actions centered. So pretty cool there. And then we've built our tier 1 for our character type on that side. So that's all the things you get from your character type. The next big stage on this is we're going to go through and show you the different skills and things that you can pick up from your descriptors and all of that. So one of the big pieces with this system are the descriptors. You get to go through and pick any of the ones from here, and each of them have different things that come along with them. And they kind of describe your character, because one of the things you'll see when you get to your character sheet section is you're going to kind of fill out who your PC is. So you'd say your name, and we may named our guy Heath, is a play character type, which our guy is a protector, and he does what, which is will be our focus. So with this, we're gonna go through and pick what our descriptor is. With our guy, I wanted to be a pretty stand-up guy, the guy who tries to do the right thing. So I picked honorable. So we're gonna go through to the honorable section. We're gonna show you everything that comes along with honorable. You see, each of these things come with a fair amount of stuff. You usually get a bonus to your one of your core stats. So that's going to be might for honorable. So that's going to bump our might pool up to by 2 to 16. We're going to be trained in pleasant social interactions, so we'll have a little bit of charm to us, even though our intellect's not the best. You're going to have additional equipment. Your carried item that you found, it belongs to someone else, and you hope to give it back to them someday. We're going to say it's a pocket watch. From his harrowing escape from the barrows, he had to leave one of his co-workers behind, but was able to snag the pocket watch. And he's not sure if that co-worker lived or died from the fray, but he's hoping he is. So, hoping he's alive so he can give back that pocket watch. And also, cool thing with these two is they give you some initial links to the starting adventure. So this is one of the things after everybody picks their both their descriptor and as we get into a little bit later their focus. I would have as a GM kind of go through and we can kind of touch on what each of these are for everybody, so we kind of bring the group together. I always like these types of things. Came across, I think, first in Mask. I think this is a cool way to kind of build some initial group cohesion right off the bat. So we'd go through these. So one of ours is the PC's goals to peer honorable and be recommendable or commendable. Wow. And you'd like to help them. So you pick one of those PCs in the groups and say, hey, their goals are good, and hey, I want to help them. And that's it for our descriptor. So we're an honorable protector. Now we're going to go through and pick our focus. So with this, the focus is a cool one, and this is one that they recommend that no two PCs should share the same focus. You'll see that they've got a list of ones you can pick through here. So definitely one of those things as a game master to kind of get a call on ahead of time just to make sure each person has a unique one. So they have a list of them on this side, and I wanted to make one that fit what I would look thought Heath would be doing. He's an honorable guy. He's definitely one that works with his hands and tries to stand up for people and do what's right. So I think he does what needs doing. He's one that kind of is not afraid to get his hands dirty when he thinks he's doing the right thing. So what that's going to do is we're going to go through does what needs doing and kind of see what cool things we get from that side. So with these two, so this is going to be where you get a lot of your cool skills and things like that, as well as some different things for each tier. So with this, we're gonna get Bill's what needs doing. You're the one that everybody look to in a pinch, and you get to pick some cool connections to your PCs too. So this is another one that I would do kind of at the start of your adventure, because you get to pick I think 4 different connections to each one of the PCs. One of mine is pick one of the other PCs. You feel like if they're just a little bit lazy, it could benefit from your work ethic. So it kind of just gives you some different kind of callbacks to the PCs, which is always nice. You also get your tier 1 ability, useful. So you get a lot of hands-on experience or training and tasks related to 3 areas of hands-on skills. So for our guy, I picked that. And he got to get some more skills. So he got uh, to carpentry, running machinery, as well as I think driving is what I took from last on that side. And you get a different ability each tier too. So we're only at tier 1, so we're gonna get that ability, and that's our focus. And that's building a PC with the system. So I'm going to show you what it looks like in the character sheet when you have everything said and done. But as you saw, this is a pretty quick character build. It's not too complicated, and it's not focused around the central question for the Cipher system. and that's who your PC is, kind of what their descriptor is, what they do, or kind of what type of character they are, and what they do. So he's an honorable protector that does what needs doing. And with that, you can see we've got tier one. We've got one effort that we could spend, no XP. You see all of our pools there. As I mentioned, that's our pool, so that's our total that we can go to. But if we took damage, we'd bring that down to 14 if we spend it on certain abilities. Recovery rolls, which we'll get into during one of our mechanics videos, all of the training that we did. Oh, I did making moonshine instead of machinery on that side. So all the different skills we got there. We got our sledgehammer, our light gun, and one of these things too as well. We'll probably go through it more in our combat video. But each of the weapons, you don't roll for damage. They tell you what they do based off what type they are. Remember, I went through heavy, medium, and light. So our sledgehammer's heavy, so it does 6 damage. Our gun, even though it's light handgun, is medium, so it does 4 damage. And then you see we got some of our equipment there. I went through and marked it because they've got different tiers for their equipment, from expensive all the way down to inexpensive. And they have very expensive above that too. But we didn't start anything with like that. And then you get to if you had your ciphers there. Forgot to call this out when we went through the protector section, but we start off with 2 ciphers as a protector. I think some of the other classes like sages get some more ciphers they could spend to. Definitely stay tuned. We're going to do a whole video about ciphers coming soon. And then some of our special abilities in there, we got practiced armor, physical skills, all that we got from being a part of our class. But yeah, quick run through of how to build a PC in the worlds of the old gods of Appalachia. If you got any questions about how to build a PC, throw them down in our comments, or even if you have any kind of tips and tricks you've used with either the old gods or the Cypher system for building a cool PC, we'd love to hear them. But definitely make sure you're coming by September 28th, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we dive into our live actual play of the system. Definitely want to make sure you're there for a chance to win a free copy of the hardcover. Shout outs to Shanna Germain on that side. And then definitely, if you want to be a part of picking our next games of the month, join our Patreon. There'll be a link down in the description. We truly appreciate the support. But thanks for hanging out, everybody, and till next time.